Okay, very good. I've been asked to come here today to explain what is the state of the city. I'm hoping that by the end of this, when we finish dinner, we will be able to answer that question with a single word. Now, if I can find my little clicker and figure out how it works, we will do it. All right, is this, here we go, look at that. This is our city council, and I'll call upon you, and you can raise your hand, stand up, stamp your feet, make a wave, whatever. Vice Mayor, Carlin Obringer. Carlin? Yay. Former Mayor, Laura Hoffmeister. Former Mayor, Ron Leone. And our youngest council member, Tim McGallion, the kid. There we go. We also have our treasurer, Patty Barsotti. Patty? All right. Supporting the city council in many ways, allowing us to drive them totally insane. We have, from right to left, we always move in the left direction when you're with me. City clerk, or the master scribe, Joelle Faulkner. All right. Guy Swanger, our police chief, who's also in charge of all guns and badges. Suzanne Brown, our city attorney and our local enforcer of the Brown Act. And Valerie Baroni, our city manager, who really is a disguised CEO. And I take a moment about that because this is business. All right, as you know, I grew up on the East Coast and I was introduced to corporate America on the East Coast and ran around the world. To me, a manager is someone who runs a shoe store. So I put as an additional title, Chief Executive Officer. And I want you to think of the city manager of this city as the Chief Executive Officer of an employment base of over 400 people with $170 million yearly revenue with anywhere between $3 and $20 billion in assets. And we all know how that goes. You tell your auditor what number you want, and that's what you get. So, and she has 24/7, 100% of the market share in the city of Concord. Now, who can beat that? Nobody. All right, supporting the city council, we have our assistant city manager, Kathleen Treppa. Economic development, Andrea Aus, no H. Finance, Karen Reed. Information technology and tormentor of my personal iPhone, Jeff Lewis. Human resources, Jasmine Loy. Naval Weapons Station and Reuse Project, and former mayor, Guy Berkey. Parks and Recreation, Steve Voorhees. And Public Works, Justin Izell. All right, there we go. Concord Naval Weapons Station. It has often been described that the project of the Concord Naval Weapons Station is a marathon. And when my Greek grandmother came to me and first talked about marathons, she turned around and she said, "Don't they know that the guy died at the end?" So I generally prefer the story of the turtle and the hare, where the turtle just kept plugging around, and you can see why he survived, whereas the hare went around the first bend, met a bunch of Spartans, and was never heard from again. Now, the Navy agreement will be in the summer of 18, hopefully. The first transfer will be next year. The specific plan, where we have 11 to 13 people on our community service, community action group, tormenting our staff, and Lennar 5 Point at the same time. They're likely to finish at the end of this year, but more likely beginning of 19. Negotiations with the Navy and the final design development agreement with Lennar will be in the spring of 2019. After that, what basically will happen, whoops, all right. After that, we will have what's called horizontal infrastructure. They didn't want to put in sewers and things underneath the ground and disgusting stuff. All right, that'll be all done in 2020. So if there's anyone here in the construction business, 2 years, there's your target. Vertical construction is likely to start in 2022, and that's when the real estate people will get going. And thank you, by the way, to the Contra Costa real estate people who apparently sponsored our table. All right. Yay. Okay. Why do we have cleanup at the state? Well, I think the picture says it all. But the area that we're developing is a big archway from Willow Pass to the North Concord BART station. And part of the reason is illustrated here is that there's areas on either side that still need to be cleaned up. But a majority of the stuff has been done. In works, we still have a few spots where the Navy has started remediation, and it's a 5-year project. Some of those are, for example, north of Highway 4, there's an area by an old railroad station where what they're doing is they're pumping air and water down into an existing spool and then aerating it into a closed area and bringing the remains down and keeping the bad stuff out. We have Bunker City, and I think everyone knows where Bunker City is. That's when you go on Highway 4 and you see all these mounds off to the right. We are still discussing with the Navy on how to clean it up. The Navy, in their benevolence, in the 1940s, used arsenic as a way to control weeds, as well as control a few of the cows in the area. And then we moved on, and they decided that it should be left for us. So now we're deciding with them how far you're going to dig down to remove the arsenic, and that's one of the things that will hold up that part of the development. All of this leads to a certain amount of environmental concern, not only at the base, but also everywhere else. Now these species, the amphibians, all right, when we all started, apparently there was a choice to be made. You want the water or you want the land. These guys are at the back of the line, and since the first two were taken, they decided, we'll take both. And that's why they're stuck in the middle. Hopefully they will evolve sometime. On the base, we have the red-legged froggy and a tiger salamander. Two absolutely disgusting, slimy animals that I cannot stand, but nevertheless, I will not have our name of Concord as the reason that they became extinct. All right? That's not for us. Extinction is forever, and you're not going to put our name on it. The state has wonderfully decided and increased our clean air measures, and I fully agree with it. In fact, our air needs to be cleaner. And I have suggested that we put filters around Sacramento when the legislature is in so that they don't pollute the rest of the state. The clean water, all right, the clean water part, they have, again, pushed forward some excellent ideas. We all want clean water. Water is especially sensitive to us, only because we need it to stay alive, and also because we've gone through a water shortage, and this city and your companies have done a tremendous job in the past in trying to deal with the water shortage. One of the aspects that we will have to deal very shortly is the storm drains. This is the water that runs off the street and goes down into the storm drains. We are under a mandate in a few years to have 100% clean storm drains, storm water. That means, forget about spitting on the street. You're not even going to empty your coffee can on the street. So the state is very easy. They do three things that they give to us. They give us things that we have to do, and they're not going to pay for it. Things that we're supposed to do that cannot be done. And finally, a whole bunch of things that they want us to do that we just simply can't understand what they're talking about. Nevertheless, in Concord, we've been striving to sort of like, we figured we got the spirit. The spirit of Concord is that we live in concordance with one another, and anything we can do to make it better, that's what we're supposed to be doing. And even if the guys up in Sacramento annoy us, and we will not talk about the person in Washington, nevertheless, we work on the spirit of the city here. And all our businesses are very cooperative. You guys, you call yourselves the Greater Chamber, the Greater Concord Chamber. I always see Concord as Greater Concord. And believe me, if it lasted long enough, Clayton, Pleasant Hill, Walnut Creek, they're in trouble. Greater Concord is coming. Now, environmental sustainability. We recently concluded an agreement to provide a good portion of our electricity with solar and generated power. It's the company's MCE, which could either stand for Marine Clean Energy or My Clean Energy. I prefer the latter. They will be moving their headquarters for Contra Costa to Concord. PG&E continues to be our supplier, doing the metering, and anyone who opts out of MCE will remain with PG&E. The City's Choice program begins in April. You should have already received, by the end of this month, a bunch of information in your mail. Community Choice, whoops, we'll get that one. Community Choice, if you do nothing when you go in, you will be on a 50% plan. That 50% of the energy that you use will be from green sources. I urge you all to opt up and to take the 100% green energy solution. This is the best for the environment. It'll cost you a few pennies more a month, and it sets an example for everyone else that we're serious about this in California. Now, traffic issues. The picture generally illustrates very effectively what happens when you combine different modes of transportation in the same road. Whoops. Okay. Luckily, this did not occur on Clayton Road. Our biggest collisions are along Market Street, where Concord Avenue and Willow Pass. And of course, there is the infamous white fence area, well, this is where the Masonic Temple used to be. And they only had 9 accidents last year. All right? They had, I think, 15 the year before that. I was going to put up a sign that says, fence 11, car 0. I must admit, it was my idea to move the fence back 20 feet so that I figured give them some more room. It didn't matter. It was a challenge. And our drivers met that challenge. If they didn't damn well hit that fence at least 9 times this year after I spent all the money to move it back. Now, Justin Azell, Justin, where are you? He had a brilliant solution, all right? And he said, if there's no fence, they can't hit it. So, when you go back 20 feet, he decided to make a gate with no fence in between. So just reinforce it so the cars go sailing through. The best solution was the one on Claycord, where they said we should put a ramp there with a camera that triggers when people go on so you can see Dukes of Hazzard films just every time someone launches it. Hopefully, there will be an apartment complex and restaurant or something else in there in the next 3-4 years. Basically, our fatalities are gone down a little. Injuries have also gone down. However, I want you to look at that picture, and it wasn't being just facetious, all right? We are in the process of increasing the amount of bicycle lanes we have. We are also in the process of encouraging bicycle riders everywhere. You will see an increase in the kind of damages between cars and bicycles. It's inevitable. It's not necessarily, it's not a happy point, but it's the reality. And this is a reminder, all right? But this is progress, because the more bikes, the less wear and tear on the road, the less maintenance I have to pay on the road, the healthier the people will be as a whole, and there'll be less problems of parking, so we can have more visitors from Walnut Creek who obviously can't park there. Now, over here on crime, I have to say something about crime, because otherwise the table over there with guns and badges will not let me out alive. On the right-hand side, 2017, is our, whoops, back. There we go, yay! I'm probably going to get arrested for that. On 2017, you can see our stats. the stats next to it, rather than being Concord, that's really Detroit on a slow Tuesday night. So basically, we've made progress in most areas. Things are going to fluctuate up and down. I'm very pleased with the number of home burglaries that are down. And of course, when you're talking crime, 0 is the magic number. I should hope that we will get there. Ultimately, the guys with guns and badges are not going to be, we're not going to arrest our way out of this. There are social issues and cultural and economic that play a significant part in our crime rate. Okay, political questions, the fun stuff. Tonight, we will be in our second open meeting in the City Council talking about district elections. The issue is, we are a city of 128,000, and we elect our entire City Council at large. That means that the 5 of us have to go out and get the votes from 64,000 voters that are registered in the city. If we go to when we go to district elections, the city will be divided into 4, 5, 6, or 7 districts, and when you go to vote, you will have 1 person to vote for, not 5, 6, or 7. We are not at the point where the discussion can be yes or no districts. That boat has sailed, or has been sunk, as the case may be. And now the only question is, how do we do this? And right now, in the next 4 weeks, we will be solving this. We have an independent demographer who's doing all sorts of funny things with maps, with dots and colors and stripes and dashes and everything else. We have a whole bunch of different constituent groups going on saying, well, that's not a neighborhood, this is a neighborhood, that's a neighborhood, all right? And it will be all hopefully resolved very shortly, and I can guarantee you that the number of people that will be dissatisfied will overwhelmingly surpass those that are satisfied. That's politics these days. We also will be deciding whether we're going to have a directly elected mayor or not. It is one of the package deals that's sort of like a bonus with our district discussions. We have never had a directly elected mayor. The council and the people will be deciding in the next few weeks. When I say people, it's not by vote, it's by discussions on whether we will include a directly elected mayor or not. So in effect, the options are 4 districts and a directly elected mayor, 5 districts, 6 districts and a directly elected mayor, or 7 districts. And that's the fun games right now on our political questions. And it has pushed back all other things on our council because we have to get this resolved very quickly by fiat of a court. Now, yay, social issues. This is where we make the real long-term impact on our crime rate. A massive amount of our crime is not caused by Bonnie and Clyde going out there robbing all our banks. Overwhelmingly, the violent crimes in this city are domestic violence. And as I say, the Family Justice Center seeks to give people the right path, not the wrong path for families. If we can reduce the domestic violence, the guys over at that table with the guns and badges, they're safer every night. And we are happier. The Family Justice Center, which was an idea brought to us by Guy Swanger and championed in the lead by Tim Grayson, with Dan Helix, myself, and the rest of the council at the time, which was still Laura and Ron. We all got 100% behind this. I believe that it will take us at least 10 years before we find out for sure how effective our programs are. And I, as the mayor of Concord, I'm committed to make that 10-year commitment and make it work. We've got to do something about domestic violence. This is one of the ways. So, homelessness. I can't go any couple of days without someone coming to me talking about homelessness and how this is a problem for them. And I said, well, what is the problem of homelessness for you? And their answer usually is, well, I see them. I got news for you folks. Homelessness is a problem not for the ones that you see. It's far greater for the ones that you don't see. We are not going to solve the homeless issue in this city, in this county, or in this state until we change our attitudes towards mental illness and we begin to provide facilities and laws that can support the taking of people and getting them the help they need. If someone was lying on the street and was bleeding, we would take them to the hospital. If someone was lying on the street that's schizophrenic and having a paranoid fit, we leave them there. This has to stop. But we can't stop it unless we get legal support for the laws. And even after that, that may take care of 70%. We will have anywhere between upwards of 20%, which homelessness is, quite frankly, a lifestyle and a choice. And then the other 10% are the ones that we can turn fast. But homelessness there's something far more insidious that is dangerous to us than just the homeless, which is in our face. And when I talked to my son about it, he said, I said, it's the invisible homeless. And he said, no, Dad, it's not the invisible homeless. It's the invisible unhoused or underhoused. And I liked underhoused. We are engaged right now in a social change in our society which will have long-term effects. Our kids and our grandkids are moving back. The joke was they're the boomerang generation. This has caused major shifts, and the scars will be far in the future. We used to have a situation where we would think, well, we buy a small, or we are in a rent apartment. Then we move into a small house. Then we got to get a bigger place for the kids to go to school. Then the kids are going to college, thank you very much, get lost, and then we're going to get a smaller house or a smaller cottage, whatever. That sequence, which actually drove the real estate industry, made them very happy, is being damaged. Also, the spirit and the drive that sits behind that is also being damaged. We need to solve the situation of affordable housing, or more importantly, the underhoused. Now, last month I met a couple over at my office on Pete's Coffee in Oak Grove, and what they said was, I asked them where do they live, and they said, oh, we live in a 3-bedroom apartment up on Clayton Road. And I said, oh, that's great. And then they said, with 2 other couples, and they don't know those other 2. And that's the problem. We're getting higher densities in the existing housing stock because people can't afford to move out. What does that do to us as a community? Well, in the first place, higher density in the same housing stock means more cars on the roads. Hopefully means more bicycles too, all right? It means higher traffic. It means higher problems with social issues, interactions. More people interact. It means more people have a bad day, all right? Domestic violence goes up in a crowded community. We need to address the underhoused. And it doesn't mean Section 8s. It doesn't mean subsidized housing. It means more housing of every single classification. We have to hurry. We have to get the kids out of our houses. We got to get the grandkids out of our houses. We got to change their mindset that, yes, they can do it. The American dream should be returned and be alive, instead of the American dream being, gee, how much am I going to have to pay Dad or Granddad for the room? Independence is part of the spirit of Concord. When we were formed 150 years ago, the people who formed this city, the Galindo and the Pacheco family, gave land away free and called the town Todos Santos. Within 6 months, the people started calling it Concord. The Pacheco family was not very happy. They opened up an ad in the paper to say, don't call it Concord, it's Todos Santos. Well, in the spirit of Concord, do we listen to them? All right? Do we listen to land developers here? Give me a break. All right. So, 1905, we officially changed it to the town of Concord, and in the 1940s, we became the city of Concord. The spirit is we're independent, we do things on our own. The social issues will cause a problem. Part of the solutions is civic awareness. The city has started a community institute. It used to be known as the Concord Community Leadership Program. Ron Leone, Ron, where are you? Ron Leone and I were the last ones in the Leadership Academy in, I think, 2009. And now it was reinstituted this year for the first time. And what it does is it takes people, our residents, and teaches them about community government, what we do, why it's important, and all this other stuff. We have, the police have for years done a Citizens Police Academy, which I also was in 2009, and a bunch of others have gone through. They do an excellent job of telling the people what they do and all the different aspects. All of this to build up civic awareness. We hope to have park neighborhood teams in all our parks by the end of this year. I will be pushing for that. These are neighbors who take responsibility to go to their park, make sure that they do what they can to clean it, make sure they do what they can to report to the city the appropriate places to get things fixed. And this brings us to the importance of the schools. Unfortunately, in our society right now, there's a growing gap between people and the governments at all levels. This has to be changed. This has to be refocused. The civic classes that we all had, all right, that apparently many of us slept through. Being a poli-sci and history major, I can assure you I was not doing my algebra homework during that time. That we need to emphasize it even more. We right now have a situation where that whole phrase that we say, at least I do, 3 times a week, that ends with indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're getting kind of weak on the indivisible concept. And it's up to the schools to start reinforcing it. And I, as the mayor, will be doing everything I can to reach out to any school, any religious group, any group at all that wants to talk about government and you. And the key to government is very simple. It was told to me by a wise guy in Brooklyn when I was 11. They're either listening to you or they're listening to someone else. And if you're not talking, silence never moved a politician. We've got to get out there as a government. We have to get out there as a society. And we have to start talking to each other. And politics is important. What government does at our local side isn't politics. A pothole does not have a cultural designation. I never ran into an Italian-speaking slash in the street. We need to get our people together. We need unity. We have to double down on our name of Concord, that we live in concordance with one another. And we have a big celebration coming. 150 years ago, we can celebrate that man, Don Salvio Pacheco, with his son-in-law and his son, helped establish the aforementioned town of Todos Santos. On July 4th, we will be unveiling a statue in the Todos Santos Plaza, which, by the way, was given to the people of Todos Santos, later Concord, in perpetuity by that man. That's probably the only reason it's remained perfect lines. All right. We used to have a Carnegie Library in the square. Unfortunately, we knocked it down to make more room for a park, which isn't a bad spirit. I just wish they didn't knock down the library. Now, on July 4th, we'll have a big celebration. And we are right now, to help fund that statue and everything else around it, we're selling bricks where you can put 3 lines of 23 characters each and say just about anything you want. Ray Barber, Ray, where are you? Back there. You can contact him and the Historic Society. Carol Longshore, where are you hiding? Stand up. That's Carol Longshore. They have flyers out there, and go buy your brick today. One of the funny things that you may want to put in is put your name, congratulations, and then say, see other brick. I figured that's what they're going for. All right. History will be the emphasis for me all this year. I will be talking to schools. I will be talking to anyone we can get. I've already started on Sundays at noon at Todos Santos. We've done 3 walk, talk, and listens. All right. It takes about 45 minutes. We walk around Todos Santos Plaza. I talk about the history of the city and how some of the aspects relate to how government works. And then we have a period where I listen and people tell us or tell me what they want to do with our city. Connecting with government. Connecting with government. One of the most interesting aspects of the technological age is we can connect with government through our phones. We have an app called Concord Connect. As we all know, we are the civil servants, and we have a great team here. Well, all the rest of you guys are the civil masters. And using this application on your phone, you can go directly to your civil servants and say, fix this pothole, please. And don't forget, please. Deal with this graffiti. Deal with this broken sidewalk. I have an abandoned car over here. Right? All sorts of things. I have a street light outage. And what it does, it allows you to take your phone, you hit a button, get to your app, hit the department, say graffiti, you take a picture of it. Try when you take a picture of it to give some kind of background so they know how to find it, so they're not looking in your backyard. And then it asks you 2 questions. Bizarre questions for me. It's, is it on public-private? Are you public or is it private? And when I say it's public, and then you have to answer the next question, which is, do you own it or not? I'm totally confused when I'm the mayor, all right? I see graffiti on it. What do I do? It's public. Do you own it? Well, sort of. So anyway, you figure it out. It's important. It is very important because this begins to put you directly in contact with government. And what will happen is you'll get a message that says, yes, we got it. You'll get a second message that says, we're going to do it, or some reason why they can't, which is very rare. Then you'll get a third message that says, hey, we started it today. And then you get a message, we did it. And these guys are great. Most graffiti is gone within 2 days. Potholes and other aspects sometimes take anywhere from 5 to 10 days. Big potholes and stuff like that. You may get a note that we're not going to fix it because we've already got $3 million scheduled to rip up the entire road in April. Use it. Get involved with your government at the most simple level and teach your kids how to do it too. All right. Coming soon, Concord Community Town. 5 minutes. Okay. Talk fast, not necessarily well. Community town halls, we have a website open. Tell us what you think. Now comes the happy part. Economic outlook. As I say, the first rule in getting out of a hole is to stop digging. This is from one of the container depots that I deal with down in New Orleans, and I thought it was a great picture. We need money. By the way, that's not enough, just to let you know. I think that's $20 million that was seized in Mexico. And we can't pussyfoot around with what's coming down. We know we have a recession coming. We know we have rising pension costs. We know we have rising interest rates. And the service demand, because people want us to do more, isn't going to stop. Whoops. Oh, fun part. There we go. Okay, this chart shows us the next bunch of years. You'll notice I am all the way over here on the left. I'm a happy mayor. All right? There's no yellow between me and everything else. This is the best time to be mayor. Hooray! Okay, 9 years from now, we have to deal with our pension costs going from $7 million to $21 million. We have to deal with rising infrastructure costs. We have to deal with the blue line. The blue stuff is Measure Q of the amount of money that we have dedicated to go to operations. Measure Q is about $13 million, $11 million, depending on the work you guys do. Go out and sell more stuff, please. We need the sales tax revenue. So, the yellow line is a challenge. We need to cover that. And we have ordered, the blue line is what we take less and less from Measure Q each time. All right, what's left over we're supposed to be spending on one-time stuff and other things. We've got to close that gap. And how are we going to do it? Well, pensions we know is a negative. Cannabis is not going to solve all our problems. All right, it may make us feel bad. All right, it may get over anything that we don't be depressed about. Okay, but it will increase some of our revenues. It's not the cure-all. Downtown and elsewhere, that's up to you guys. We need more economic development. We need more companies coming. We need more sales. We just had Veranda, which was the first major shopping center in decades. Upwards of $200 million was spent because they believe in you. They believe in Concord. They believe being in the center of this city is important. We are the largest city in the second wealthiest county, over 1 million people by population, in the 6th largest economy of the world. We've got it. We can build on it, and you will be part of it. I expect that our business attractions, which includes Veranda, BMWs, MCE, Reed Racing, Dunkin' Donuts. Well, according to my wife from New York, we've always had Dunkin' Donuts. Every donut store in the world is a Dunkin' Donut. But they will actually be officially coming to Concord. And we need more like that. Our business attractions, Pacific States Petroleum, robotics. Robotics, how interesting is that? We are starting to test autonomous delivery in the streets of Concord. We got these little machines running around, going over to people's houses and saying, here's your hot pizza. Anyway, we have both Marble Robotics and Starship Technologies. Over at the base, we have Momentum Station, which is the lead in the autonomous vehicle testing areas. As you may have heard in the intro, I was in the last transportation revolution, which was containerization, which changed the way we ship our cargoes that hadn't been changed in 2,000 years. Right now, the autonomous vehicles and the connected vehicles, we are in the process of changing the way we will transport ourselves for the next 200 years. And we are right there now. And Concord's right at the spot. Some of our highlights, we've had the Vibe people, pro sporting events I will look forward to, social media, video series. I would like us to get a semi-pro operation going somewhere. All right, looks like I'm getting the little, wait, we're coming close to the end here. A new library. Whoops. All right, they cut me off. All right, just real quick. I'd like us to get a new library, but it's not going to happen in the base for at least 10 years. So I will be pushing in order to have a, see if that works. Aha. Oop, wrong way. There we go. This is an actual library, by the way. It's in Ohio. That's a guy who's standing, a little white blurb there. That's a guy standing on the 4th floor. You can tell they don't have earthquakes there. And that reminds me very much of the New York City Library. I will be hoping that we can expand our local city library. And I add a couple of rooms, one for community, one for more shelves. And the Total Santos spirit. We are at Concord. We live in concordance with one another. And our city employees. We have the best city employees, not just in the city of Concord, but we have the best city employees in this county. I have never met a city employee who I wasn't proud of in this city. They are unspoken heroes. We have had city employees stop their cars, get out, and rescue a dog from a pit bull. We have had our city employees stop and help someone with CPR. We have our cops who have, after playing with guns and badges all their lives, These guys have saved more people with their defibrillators than you can imagine. They've become truly safety. We, as city employees, are proud of each other, and we know that the hard times coming ahead is going, we're going to have to work on it. And then I would like to say, before I tell you what the answer is, of all these problems that we have, whatever they are, the way we solve it is this. First, we find out what the truth is. Then we try to find out what's a fair way to solve for all concerned. We need to build goodwill and better friendships in our solution. And in the end, we'll find something that is beneficial to all. And as for the state of the city, come on, guys. It's California. Forget about it. That's it.